Gosh, I'm not used to being the one who goes first. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pale in Comparison, a proud member of the Doof Network. In this podcast, my sister from another mister uses her knowledge of the Otherverse to take a look at Pact, Wildbow's most ornithological work, and I try not to give away any spoilers. I'm Elliot, and Malia convinced me to read Worm.
I'm Malia, and Elliot convinced me to read everything else. This episode, we are covering Duress, chapters 12.5 and 12.6. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to issue a spoiler warning. This podcast is filled with pale spoilers. If you don't know if the Alabasti gets nasty and don't want us to tell you, stop now, read Pale, and come back to this podcast. As for Pact, there will be full spoilers to the chapters we are covering.
Yeah.
And shout out to, I don't know, are we pretending that you're Jenny?
No, I don't think we can keep that up. It's me, everyone. I lied before. It's me, I'm Elliot.
It's a shocker. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I'm really excited.
Oh, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. This should be fun. Although I haven't been on this side of the table before. Like, I'm worried about, like, what if I accidentally spoil that Tiffany gets lost on the paths and changes her name to Miss? Like, what if I'm the one who does that? So I've got to try and be extra cautious.
Wow. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, before we start, we wanted to remind y'all to submit your photos for the costume contest. Halloween is over as of the time you're hearing this, which is very sad, but we can always look back on your fond memories of getting as close as we can to like a big cosplay convention of Wildbow by seeing your photos.
All sorts of horribly, like, maimed sort of Otherverse themed costumes. Like, because I feel like an Otherverse, like, or a Wildbow costume party is going to go one of two ways. Everyone's going to have really cool, glorious outfits, or it's just going to be a bunch of horrifying outfits that make other people go, what are these people reading?
Yeah, which is appropriate for Halloween, I guess.
Yeah, good point.
My fiance and I were at Target, and we were passing the like stuffed animal section, I guess. And there were these two blankets with hoods, and one was a deer and one was a fox, and I freaked out. And there wasn't a cat one, and I was really bummed, but like we saw them and I was like, like I could be Avery. And Ben's thought was like, we could buy these for your niece and nephew because they're children. And I was like, okay. So then we did, and they loved them. So that was nice.
Yeah, my sister has just been introducing me to the world of cat Halloween outfits, which I did not know, but you can buy all sorts of outfits to torture your four-legged friend with. She's like, she's eyeing a bunch. I'm like, why would you do this to those poor?
So have they been forced into any of them yet, or?
Yes, Lexi has a nice pair of angel wings that, honestly, considering her personality, is a great ironic sort of outfit for her.
That's the one that purrs really loud all the time?
Oh, yeah, and just, like, she sticks her paw up your nose if you don't feed her on time. Like, she's such a little gremlin.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, so apparently people dress up their cats too, which, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's revenge. That's cats are constantly sort of doing horrible things to their owner, so their comeuppance is they get stuck in these ridiculous outfits.
Yeah, you got to kind of take it where you can get it or something.
Cool. Well, should we get into the chapters? Enough about cats. Let's talk about stick men.
Sticks. Sounds great.
So the chapter summary for these two chapters that we're talking about today, the squad gets ready for their impromptu vacation to the Abyss. Tiff and Ellie, in the meantime, have a debate about whose family sucks more, but soon enough, the portal is ready, and after a short flight, everyone lands in the newest abyssal getaway destination, the Tenements. Blake helps the squad rally, and they slowly climb up past a menagerie of boogeymen and boogie homes. And then as they near safety, Blake gets a really interesting insight into his own backstory and his friend's betrayal. They eventually reach safety. Eva immediately pieces out, and after a bit more infighting and Roxanne getting stabby, Ty and Green Eyes leave and build Blake a new body out of sticks, and he immediately runs off with it and leaves all of his non-human friends behind. Oh, so no, leaves all the human friends behind. He runs off with the non-humans. But yeah, what did you think about these chapters, Malia?
Um, I I really liked them. It felt like it was a very big reveal, but also it didn't really explain anything. Um, and I really loved seeing another section of the Abyss. Just like learning. It's like their little neighborhoods. Like there's
Yeah,
like Soho and whatever. They all have their own little flavor. Like
it's a little
it was
more
exciting.
pronounced in the Abyss, though.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. This is where you really start to appreciate that. Like, there's all sorts of different horrors that await you in different parts of the Abyss.
And it's yeah, I mean it seems like that it's geographically one to one in terms of space with the material world. I can't remember what we call it. Um and it's interesting. I wonder if like the space above shapes the abyss below it, I guess, in any way, or if it's just kind of like random because it seems like Blake well, like Green Eyes in particular, if she had been in this section and had like boogified wouldn't have ended up as a mermaid,
Yeah,
and like that really shapes you.
yeah, and the one-to-one mapping, like, does that mean if you walked far enough in the direction of Toronto from the tenements, do you end up in the drains and like what's in
Strains.
between? Um,
Hmm.
Also, if you climb the tenements and open the portal too high, would you like open a portal like 20 stories in the air and have to like jump down?
Wow.
Like I just it would have been really funny if they opened the portal and it was like 40 meters up, and I was like, oh shit.
uh, yeah, that would have been good.
But yeah, no, I love your pull. Like, I wonder, like, if how Blake might have been different if he ended up in the tenements the first time.
Yeah, I mean, with Green Eyes, she's just so water themed
Yeah,
that it seems like definitely she would have been different. Um, Blake seems really shaped by his tattoos, but also maybe he would have gotten wings or big, like climbing claw hands or something.
yeah. Well, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Or maybe
well,
he
yeah,
would have just been like bug person. He would have become an anthill.
well, yeah. Oh, he might have been Spider Man. He could have
Oh
turned into
my
Spider
god!
Man.
Well, but what the fuck? You'd have
Or yeah.
practiced with Spider-Man. Uh,
Cool. Well, I guess yeah. Getting into more detail of the chapters, then we'll go through them bit by bit. So yeah, it starts with this trip or the planning for the trip to the abyss, and is mostly just I guess while Ty is doing all the work, Tiff and Elliot having this big debate about whose family is worse.
yeah, which is fair. I don't know. I love Tiff.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously the Thorburns suck. Um, they're bad parents. They're bad people. But yeah, we haven't had any. I don't think we've had any evidence of like physical abuse or sexual abuse or like all sorts of horrible things that families do to each other. And it's interesting getting a character who sees like just how shitty these people are and is like, no, my family's worse. Like it. It's. I don't know. And Tiff's just so lovely. Um.
Yeah, it reminds me of like we've seen a bunch of similar stuff in Pale. Like I'm thinking of like Yi Yun versus the
mm,
other Forsworn. Like
mm.
Yi Yun came out of the Forswearing and she's still a good person, and all the other rest of them are sort of like, I was Forsworn, it was terrible, so now I horrify people or whatever. Um,
Right.
it's like it's that sort of way. Like Tiff is very much this example, like standing up and being like, you can come from a shitty upbringing and still not be shitty.
Yeah. I mean, like Blake also. I
Yeah.
wonder if part of it is the two of them had to get away from their
Mm,
situation. I guess all the Forsworn ended up away from their situation for the most part. Um, but it was interesting, like thinking more about Yiyun with Nomi thinking about, how shit her life is, and then immediately being like, oops, my life is not shit. I'm sorry. And like Nomi's life is really hard and she's been through a lot of things and it's not great to try to like have a dick measuring contest about whose life sucks more.
yeah.
But Ian's story was just so awful and hard. And it seems like, Tiff is like, no, it was worse to be in my house, and that's just fascinating as someone who
Yeah.
can't lie to say that.
I like your call out. Like, she explicitly avoids giving details to kind of stop it turning into that kind of suffering dick measuring contest, because she just like wants to sort of establish. I think like her grander point is just stop using this as an excuse for your own behavior. Like, at a certain
Mhm,
point, it's like your fault that you continue to be like this or aren't trying to get better.
mhm. Yeah, and almost in a in a positive way of like if you have a good attitude, like you
Yeah,
you can you can be a nice and better person, and your life will feel and be better if you have a better attitude. Um,
yeah. She's such a
yeah,
good person. Like,
I love her.
she's such a like yeah, especially surrounded by all the Thorburns. She's such like a warm, nice presence.
hmm
Cool.
One thing that is sort of random that I was thinking about when I was doing my notes is that I'm really impressed that everyone knows everyone's name. um, Like, I guess it makes some sense for the Cabal to know the Thorburns' names because if Rose had, like, as part of a strategy, whatever, like, told them all about their family and why they sucked, um, it might be useful to know, oh, Peter's like this and, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I'm not great at names. Usually, especially when there's, like, college orientation or something where you're, like, meeting a whole
Mm.
bunch of new people, there's at least, a decent handful that I'm just not gonna remember what their name was. Um, and I don't know, like, when did these people go around and introduce themselves? Like, how did they all remember? Like, this is really high stress, and just kind of being like, oh wow, like y'all are remembering who each other are. Something about that is impressive.
Walbo forgot to write it down, but the Cabal are actually all wearing name tags. Like, they've got that "Hi, my name is Tiff. My
Oh.
name is Alexis," because they thought this would come up. Um,
They didn't just want to be hey you, so they were like,
yeah.
okay.
No, that's a good point, because it's also been like there's been a lot happening in
hmm
the time that these guys have all known each other. So
hmm
I also like I wouldn't be offended if in these circumstances somebody had forgotten my name, because it'd be like, you know what, you've had more important things to worry about right now. So you're right. Like, it is impressive that everyone has sort of managed to clock onto who's who.
Yeah, and like at some point, I mean, it's also like if you're kind of thrust into a situation with someone and it's like, okay, help me board up this wall or your window or whatever, like it takes kind of like a kind person, in my opinion, to be like, so what's your name?
Yeah.
And I can't see any of the Thorburns doing
What do you
that.
as you're boarding up the window, just so that weather we've been having, right? Like, just making small talk.
So where are you from?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god,
Uh,
what brings you here?
Oh. Um, yeah. So stuff is like banging into the library. I should have realized last chapter that when there's a hole in the library wall, like it's almost over. Like they can't just leave
Mm,
the innocents in the library and go on the field trip. Because the library is about to get broken into. Um, but yeah, I was surprised that they all yeah, that they had to drop. There's just so many interesting things. Like, how do you like Blake fell into the drains and also had to climb out of it. I guess there are like cliffs just sort of randomly around. Cause I'm like, how would you is there just a big like field as part of the abyss? Like, is there ever like not vertical surfaces? How do you get out?
yeah, like, so they open a portal this time, right? Like, so they're doing
Mm,
it the very special practitionery way of making their snake portal thing.
mm,
I think in Blake's case, well, because he finds the demon down there when when he's coming back up. So
mhm.
maybe kind of made a bit of a hole when it was burrowing down there or burrowing out. I don't know if it started there or what, but like
Hmm.
maybe it was weak there. But yeah, maybe it's just like Warren's holes, like in Pale. There's Warren's holes all around. Like, there's just little abyss
There's
holes.
abyss holes. That sucks.
Yeah, that is definitely. I'd rather end up in the Warrens for sure.
Uh-huh. I guess boogeymen have to get out somehow. But
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I also like the note when of course Ellie stole something expensive and like luckily Grandma Rose just had random like valuable shit around and they're trying to lift this big desk or whatever. And I just really love the note that everyone is helping except for Blake, who's not physically there, and Eva. And like Andy, obviously, because he's, whatever, catatonic. But I just thought it was so funny that she just like, no, fuck y'all. Like, they probably won't kill me if they break in or something. Like, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, they're like Eva's only other appearance in these pair of chapters is essentially the moment where Blake reaches the top, and it's like, "Where's Eva?" And it's like, "Oh, the second we open the portal, she left."
It's like good for her. Like, it sucks because she's useful, but also like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it was. What did you guys think was going to happen? Like, obviously, that's exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah. Hopefully, if Andy really is poisoned, someone can go save him or something. I don't know. It's weird, kind of liking the antagonists and hoping they're okay.
Yeah. Well, both stories will do that to you, won't they?
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
but-
oh, sorry. You go.
No, I was gonna say I think I'm good with this section unless you had.
So nope. So yeah, I guess the next thing that happens is they make the portal, they go through it, and yeah, they land in the tenements, and everyone manages to stop themselves full on falling and dying, but it's not happy days, and they all sort of have to slowly climb back up.
Yeah, I think I would have died.
Yeah, right?
I don't have arm strength and grip strength. I mean, I've never been in that sort of situation where it was like, if I don't hold on to this wall, I will die. But I just can't imagine. Yeah.
Especially like Catherine has a dislocated shoulder or something.
Uh-huh.
And like the glass hole, like so many of the handholds have glass on them, so they've got cut up hands. Like, yeah.
Right, and if you see something that looks like promising and good, you shouldn't do it because yeah, like there's glass or it'll break or it's a bug hole or just how do these people do this?
Yeah.
When they get in there and then Green Eyes is immediately like upset and I feel really bad for her, but like physically I guess she and Blake are like the best off there, and like maybe Evan seems to kind of be okay-ish throughout this. He's a little bit snippy with people, but he's fine, it seems. Mostly because he doesn't have to climb, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of all the times to be a bird, this is one of the best ones.
Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised that Blake would be like physically here again. Although it's like it makes sense because when we were in the Abyss in Arc 9, he wasn't like in reflections away from people.
Yeah.
But when he like caught Alexis, I thought he had somehow like forced his arms through the tiny mirror and like grabbed her. I didn't realize, like, no, he just is there and grabs her.
Yeah, well, there's no description of the process of like how he like how is he? Like did he grow out of the mirror, or like did he just sort of suddenly appear next to Alexis? Like, part of me is like, I wonder how he just like whether he just scared everyone by suddenly existing. Or not.
Yeah, or did he just, as the mirror fell through the portal thingy, maybe he also, I don't know. Because he's also like, oh yeah, well, like, I physically climbed out last time, and then I was in the mirrors later, and I was like, what? So, I don't know. I guess I don't need to know, because apparently it doesn't matter anymore, so...
Yeah, he's evolved beyond the need for mirrors.
Thank God.
We'll get there.
Yes.
I guess. So speaking of everyone climbing, I also just wanted to shout out Green Eyes and her. Like, she must be jacked
She's amazing.
Because she doesn't have like her tail can only be doing so much. Like, she's got to be doing most of this on arm strength alone. Like, that's insane.
And I think she's also like helping other people. Like I think she helps Peter at one point or something. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah. I guess her scales are kind of like
little like grippies.
Yeah, like maybe she's like literally like sliding up and down the wall or something. Wow. I don't know. That's a hell of an. I hope it's that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm obsessed with her, but We'll get to more of that later because she's so fun.
I do love how, like, Blake kind of is a bit upset at like how she's like she's very snippy with him when
Uh-huh.
whenever he asks us things, and it's like she did not want to be down here, and it's like, well, yeah, like, do you like, yeah, like, I don't know.
Right.
Again, what did Blake expect?
Right. None of you want to be down here. And yeah. The thing she did ask though at that one point when he asked for help was like she was like, yeah, if I end up back down there, get me out. But I mean we even meet other boogeymen this chapter that are like, hey, can I get out?
Yeah.
Let's go. She's so good.
But yeah, so I mean, they and like it's worth calling out. They go past so many different, like there's a whole menagerie of bogeymen and bogey homes here. Like there's Catherine almost gets got by some clowns with a rope.
Oh my god.
There's a giant hand at one point. Like it's this place is terrifying. Like I love how every trip into the abyss, there's just all these terrifying, like just monsters around every corner that have some weird new gimmick.
Well, yeah, and it was interesting in the drains there seemed to be a lot of people like who weren't monstrous, who were just stuck. And maybe like little tiny aspects of them were like, not human anymore or whatever. But I mean we weren't in the building, but I find it hard to imagine groups of people lasting in this building for very long.
Hmm.
Just with the like things are crawling on the outside, things are like all over the inside. Those clowns were like the most terrifying. Especially describing like the noose and you're like hanging and they're trying to like catch you like a fish or something and
Hmm.
like, kill you.
And it was so organized too. Like that's so clearly not the first time they've done this. Like they
Mhm,
had a system.
mhm. Um, yeah, and like I don't know if all the lights turned off on purpose to like so Catherine couldn't dodge the rope or whatever. And she's really lucky it just got her wrist. I thought she was dead. I was like, okay, here's like death number 2. Um, Apparently Catherine and Roxy do really care about each other, and this is the moment we learn that, and she's dead. And then it was like, oh, cool. Um, I was really proud of her, and Roxy was really proud of her for getting out of that and managing to make it up to the portal or whatever. Um, but yeah, the hand that gets the clown, it reminded me of in the episode 1 of Star Wars with when they're underwater and they're going around and there's the big monster and then the other big
Yeah.
monster, like, and there's always a bigger fish. Like, yeah,
Yep. Yeah,
so good.
100%. Because it's like, oh, we're safe, but we're not safe.
But thanks, horrifying monster, for getting that one.
Yeah, and I guess like because so those, I wonder if they get like, do those bogeymen, are they gone now or do they come back? Like, I wonder what happens to them. I feel sorry for the clown bogeymen.
Oh. If you die in the abyss, do you die in real life? Yeah, see, did you feel sorry for the clown boogeyman before you read Pale? How sympathetic are you
Oh
to these
no,
people?
it it's interesting how much I definitely, when I read Pact, bought a lot more into the vibe of All Others Are Terrifying that like
Mhm.
is in the essentials and stuff. Like I probably wouldn't enjoy listening to early Deep Impact because I probably am very otherist. It's funny how much I've changed it that way. Whereas yeah, like I reckon probably by this time when I was reading Pact, I would have been like, oh, scary monsters. They're gone. Good.
It's and that's I can see why like just pact readers or whatever would think that, but it's fascinating that the story that's from the point of a boogeyman where you
Yeah.
see them, and you get it and you're like, "Oh wow," is the story where you're like they're all scary and like the like cute little magical teenage girls and you're like, "Oh wow." But what about their personal experiences that led them to this place? Can they
Yeah.
change?
Yeah. The one where a bunch of girls get kind of kidnapped and radicalized by a creepy monster is the one that's actually about how nice they are.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Who else? Who else is on this wall? We haven't talked
Roxanne.
enough. Yeah, we haven't talked enough about Roxanne and her.
Oh my
She makes a
god.
bunch of new friends.
Oh my god. Uh, this
The
was very
the
upsetting.
descriptions of all these bugs crawling under her skin as she's like clawing at her own skin to get them out is very upsetting.
Yeah. And just, yeah, because they're crawling out of the place she's holding out, which or holding on to, which reminds me of Emperor's New Groove. I don't know why everything is reminding me of other things today, but have you seen Emperor's New Groove?
Oh, years ago. I think I remember the bit you're talking about where they're climbing on the
They're
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like trapped in the cliff over the crocodiles in the
Yes. Yeah.
river, and Cusco's face gets caught in a hole, and there's a bunch of bats that fly out. Oh no, and that's not it. It's that's happening, and then Pacha is like, sorry, okay, wait. Cusco's face is in a hole. Everything's fine, except Pacha gets a bunch of like red fire ants or something crawling down his back. That's the thing, and then
Yeah.
bangs on
Yeah.
the wall, and the bats fly out, and they get up because cartoon magic. It's so good, but also so
Yeah.
scary.
Oh, the thing I hate about the Roxanne ones is I think there's a point where Blake mentions that they're going under her skin, and then they sometimes pop out for a bit and like go back under, like on their journey, which is so clearly they're like the abyss just trying to make it worse.
Mm-hmm. It does a good job of that.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah,
bugophobia if I were Roxanne after this, if she didn't
just
already.
of the worst. Yeah, because this is what's so like awful, and like people don't like bugs, and I feel like something about this, like just bugs crawling on you is bad, and this is bugs crawling in you, which also reminds me of the Mummy. But
Yes, it's very reminiscent of that scene.
yes, that scene messed me up as a 10-year-old.
I didn't mind it, which is weird. Like,
What?
did you ever have that thing where I think sometimes you watch something really awful as a kid, but you're almost too young to get it, and then you just like are immune to it? Like, my sisters first watched Jurassic Park when they were like 3, because they were obsessed with dinosaurs. So my mom put Jurassic Park on for them, and they loved it. And like, I think that's like, and you know, like I was watching it with them when I was like 5, and none of us really find it that scary. And it's always because like we didn't understand it enough the first time, so we just kind of were immune to it. And I think that might have happened with me and the Mummy. It was so cool that the bug was under there that it just I didn't appreciate it, and now I'm immune somehow.
Fascinating.
Does
Yeah,
that
I was
make sense?
already.
Do you
I
have
think
that
so.
with
Well,
anything?
not really for like scary or upsetting things, because I was a very anxious child that was afraid of everything. But in terms of like, I can. It's like watching movies now where I'm like, oh, that was like a really inappropriate joke, or like, oh, that
Mm.
was like more of, or this plot doesn't make any sense. Just sort of like things that you don't notice when you're little that you do notice later, but you still love the thing. But I have I've had glasses since I was 3 years old, and so when the Mummy like rips the guy's eyes
Oh
out, the guy with
yeah.
the glasses, that from that point I was like so emotionally scarred that the scarab beetles, I was like, I can't.
I never understood that
Uh,
part either, because it's like the Mummy's taking the organs from people to get his own, but he takes the eyes from the guy who like can't really see without
can't
glasses.
see.
Like that's got to be the worst person to take them from, surely.
Yeah, that's a bad tactical decision. Ugh. Oh, and then Blake is like, what will motivate Roxanne to not stay in this scary apartment where we're gonna get got? I know, I'll talk to her like her father would. And it's like, oof, okay, I guess. But also, do you want to be the one who failed and got lost when everyone else succeeded? Like, I guess that's motivating. He tells her
Yeah,
to man the fuck up. I was like, that's not okay.
especially because like the whole time he's thinking to himself, man, my dad and Uncle Paul sucked. Like their whole way of motivating people is awful, and I'm gonna do it right now. Like it's yeah, but it sort of works.
Like, I get, yeah, I think he kind of, like, it sort of makes sense in terms of, this girl is ruthless and has like a history of doing bad and mean crap, like probably because her family pushed her to. And so maybe he was thinking, oh, this will motivate her, but also maybe saying like it's going to be okay, like get on my back and I'll help you would have worked more.
Yeah, I can sort of see the logic though of the like if she is that really sort of the like, do you want to be the one who failed when even Kristoff succeeded? Honestly, that would probably have worked on me at about that age
That's what you
too.
should have
Actually,
said.
like, like I am that petty and competitive. I could see that working on me. So like, I kind of get part of what he went for.
Mm-hmm. God, and then these fucking Thorburns can't quite change. Like, Roxanne is on Blake's back, and he's like carrying her up this building, and she's like, "You stink," and I'm like, "You just didn't have to say that." Like, what are you doing? I feel like, yeah.
Is that important right now? Would be my thing as well. Like, it's such a wild complaint.
And then later when Catherine's saying like, "Leave me, my arm is dislocated," like, take Roxanne to safety, and then she's like, "And when you do get her to safety, go to hell." I'm like, okay. They're just so extra, and it's great.
Yeah, I think Catherine's being fair there, though, right? Like, isn't her complaint like "fuck you for bringing us here"? Because that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. It's also funny because I'm like, oh, you're in hell, like, as far as I know, so that's sort of funny.
Yeah, it can't be very far. Like, it shouldn't be a long trip for Blake from here.
Right, but this was a bad plan. Yeah, I guess, like, not to skip ahead, it seems to kind of work out for Blake because he does get a body. Like, maybe if they had gone to the paths or the ruins or the spirit world or to the wherever, he wouldn't have shown up, like, in person.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, like I guess I don't know that these guys know about all those places. Though is the other thing. Like, this is just another one of the like. Blake doesn't know about anywhere but the abyss. Oh no, he doesn't. No, he did go to the spirit world. Narc
He
7.
knows
He
about the
does.
spirit world.
What are you doing, Blake?
I mean, there's a much higher chance that there's some, like, other or practitioner in the spirit world in the house,
Yeah, true.
like, there to block them.
Yeah,
But
nobody would
this
think
is
they're stupid
why.
enough to go to the abyss.
Or that they'd make it out, I guess. But Grandma Rose's library needs to have some, like, nicer things in it. Because yeah, all the others they summon when they're like, "We looked in the books and we found 58 boogeymen and 5 wraiths." Like, I'm like, there's other stuff, right? Like, why? Why is this all you have? I guess others don't want to deal with Diabolus. So
Yeah, maybe like maybe there were others, but they're just like they're in the corner. Like, Granny Rose probably wrote them a list of like the books with the coolest others in them, and she was a psycho who probably wrote down all the boogeymen and stuff. But there's like a book in the corner that's like nice, friendly others or something.
just like kind of reasonable others.
With like a whole lot of dust on top of it.
I do think I'm trying, like, if they had managed to somehow get to like a fairy court, that would probably be worse, right? Not worse, but like bad.
Yeah,
I guess if they only had to walk
so.
200 feet, maybe they could have made it.
That's true. Or I don't know. I guess it depends where in the fairy courts you end up.
Mm-hmm.
Like the argument, presumably is that Blake and Green Eyes know the abyss, so they, in and out, quick trip. They just didn't assume, they incorrectly assumed they get dropped on,
The
I don't
trains.
know, not the side of a building.
Right. It's just so mean. Also, looking at my notes, there's a detail that the clown's eyelids have been, like, cut off, which that's awful.
All the better to
Yeah.
see you with.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of wondering with all the, like, what choices did you make to become a clown boogeyman? Like, were you a clown that ended up in the abyss somehow? I guess maybe not all boogeymen were human originally. Maybe there's like spirits and other stuff down there that get turned into whatever. But how did you become a clown boogeyman?
Yeah.
What sorts of choices led you to be like, my face paint? Like,
that's a good point, because that's not a good outcome. Like, if you're going to become, like, in Blake's vision, he was like a giant, like, gargoyle thing that would swoop down and pick people up and eat them. And at least that's badass. He's not like a clown with his clown friends, like that. It's a disappointing boogeyman outcome, isn't it?
Well, every step, right? You're like, okay, like the wings, because you know, walking and, you know, trudging
Yeah.
around, like you're going to sacrifice something and get these wings. And like, you know, the sharp claws and the whatever. And like green eyes, right? Like you get a tail and the ability to kind of like survive in this setting or you die. But like in what world is I have a creepy, like tattered, brightly covered outfit like helping you?
Look, I don't want to kink shame, but you know, everyone has their own tastes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they were like, if we look like clowns, people will be afraid of us. And that might have some merit.
Yeah, or I don't like because the abyss, as you said, it like molds you kind of like based on what will make you do better. Like it gave Green Eyes the ability to breathe underwater because she was stuck underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like there's so many evil clown movies that sort of made it to the abyss, and the abyss is just like clowns are creepy. That's like a good default setting.
I love it. And then, yeah, it makes me think of, I named him Mr. Grimace, the businessman with the too tight tie and the grimace face.
Yeah, and the like his suit doesn't fit him right. I think like it's like everything's just
Mhm.
wrong about how he's put together.
Mm-hmm. And I can very much see the path from businessman, you know, to this guy. Like he's, you know, he's still in the suit. And that's interesting. I just have such fond opinions of Mr. Grimace.
Well, because he doesn't actually attack them. He sort of
Right.
is sneaking up, and Blake's like no, and he's like okay, cool.
I'm chill. I'm fine.
Yeah, like you got to respect somebody who listens to boundaries. Like no means no. He stopped the murders.
And then he was also like, this seems like an interesting opportunity. And he shows up and he's like, hey man, can I get out? It's great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, should we just jump ahead to talk? So they do let him out at
Sure.
the end, and I think they tell him to go kill anyone who's over 20 and is a practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So do we know what does he do? Like he was sneaking up, but like I guess I'm just trying to
Right.
think
He
like
made like absolutely no noise and said, you know, so that's cool. I don't know how he'd kill you exactly. Silent businessman. Scary face. Maybe he can teleport his tie to your neck and like choke you because it's so tight.
yeah. I mean, I guess yeah. Hopefully, we'll see. Because he's been
Ooh.
sent out to do good work. So I don't know. Or do you think he'll just disappear? I'm
I
out.
just like didn't think about it. I was like, wow, good for you. Like like sucks you're kind of a slave, but also I hope you have a nice time.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. This was the promotion he'd been seeking at work.
It's like he's going off to a conference or I don't know. You're somewhere where you prove yourself. It's a big
honey,
presentation.
honey, I've got to go away for work, and hopefully, I won't be back.
Best of luck.
Cool. Well, yeah. So they near safety, and just as everyone is sort of getting to the top and sort of getting safe again, Blake has another vision and gets some more backstory about who he is and how his friends totally don't have his back.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't expect another vision, but it didn't cross my mind. This is really brutal.
Mm.
It's also, yeah, I think I said this at the beginning. This feels like, on the one hand, a really big reveal, and on the other hand, like it didn't really answer anything. Like it seems to settle, okay, Blake and Rose were one person who was a man, probably named Blake, unclear. And Blake is kind of like a quarter of them, and Rose is kind of like 3/4 of them, seems to be the implication. And Barbatorum wants them to destroy each other because it's funny. And
Good times.
and then I had a thought about, like, you know, the spirits like conflict and stuff, and like demons seem to be a really good vessel for stories and conflict. But yeah, so Rose has a book and it's the diary. And so presumably we're seeing her talk a little bit about binding Barbatorum and the like what she had told Eamon about her plan to help her heir with Barbatorum.
Yeah.
It just sucks so bad. Like she it's like the parts grandma didn't like about Bros was the fact that he had friends and ties to another city and interests. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, you like art? You care about something? Fuck that. Like get that out of here.
Yeah. Oh, hobbies? No.
Ugh,
No.
no.
I want you to be a nerd.
And like it seems like Grandma Rose was trying to make herself. I don't know why or if she could have like why she didn't or if she could have just like cut the gay out of Paige. Like this doesn't answer that question of like why not Paige? Paige seems like a really good option. But I mean we've seen how good Blake and Rose are at this whole situation. So maybe she was just like no they'll be better. But yeah, Grandma Rose was really into books and had no friends and no hobbies or interests. And it seemed like she was like, okay, this one is savvy and I can make him like me, I guess. Part of me wanted to come in here onto this podcast and be like, okay, we still don't know shit. And obviously, Grandma Rose cut herself in half, and that's who Blake is. But I don't think so.
That's a bold and specific prediction.
It's like, I mean, I think it's just, we've known about the whole, them being the reflection and Barbatorum can like cut reflections and like whatever. So this is a nice confirmation, but it doesn't answer anything about Paige or like what Rose knew. And again, we're not hearing exactly what Rose actually definitely knows. I don't know, something about the way she was talking about it. I'm just not confident that I understand what's happening. And they all seem to understand like, oh yeah, we have to protect Rose. And it's like, why? And like, why not Paige? Why fuck Molly's entire life over? Why? Why? Why?
I remember feeling the same when I read this chapter. Yeah.
I can't.
I think a big interesting point is that apparently Blake and Rose are destined to fight each other to the death, is what she says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he can claw it back, right? That's something she says. Is if he weakens her, he can become the real one again.
It seems that way. Yeah, she's like, oh, if he finds out he can get his old life back by defeating me, then that's bad. And I wrote down neither can live while the other survives. Lol. Because big Harry Potter Voldemort energy, except this one makes more sense.
Well, yeah, because I guess that's the other thing for Grandma. Like, how does it serve Grandma Rose's plan if her two heirs are fighting a bunch?
I mean, yeah, Rose did say the thing about like, oh well, if you can't, figure it out, then you're not worthy. It seems like a huge power expenditure. I mean, I guess she just had a lot of faith in Bros.
I love that name.
I'm just like, I don't know that his name was Blake. And it's interesting too because it's like, okay, you had this whole realization and like relief about your memories of Carl not being real, but like your memories of Carl were real and that did happen, and that sucks. But also, but yeah, these people have sided with Rose, and I don't know why. But yeah, and then presumably they were like, oh, if Barbatorum, like if one of them lives or whatever, and it works out, like Barbatorum would just like cut them in half again. And it seems like maybe he can't because he's in the circle. Mm-hmm. So like Grandma Rose used him to do it the one time, and then he can't just be like, ha.
Yeah, I guess in terms of picking Rose, because when this talk was taking place, wasn't that right after they just met him the first time out after he came out of the
Mhm.
abyss? So they didn't remember him, so I can kind of understand why, even if you're getting told he was your original friend or whatever, but they've got the connection to Rose now since Blake fell. I guess I'd probably pick Rose too in that circumstance, rather than the creepy tree guy in the mirrors.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, Connections are powerful. Yeah, I'm just wondering, did they promise something to her? Is there some sort of like reason? Because none of them are kind of like, oh, maybe we can, I don't know, talk to him. Maybe we can like
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
something out. Um, like maybe we can figure out a way for you both to not like none of them like try to defend him or anything. I don't know. Except Evan because he's perfect. Um
Yeah, I do love how just Evan is always on Team Blake.
mhm. It's
Yeah,
very
I,
cute.
I do think it's a fair criticism that none of Blake's friends wanted to talk it out with him. They all were just. Although yeah, I guess Rose did kind of conquest them into agreeing to take her side too.
Yeah. Yeah, she does. Um I mean, and then after Blake learns this, he doesn't want to talk to them. And I feel like there might be some explanation. Like there might be something there that could help. Um because the abyss is showing him like what will hurt him the most, and maybe there is some context that could help.
Yeah, I guess it will be up to him to actually talk to them to figure that out.
Right. And now he doesn't want to. Yay.
1 point abyss.
7 points abyss.
Yeah, it's probably got more than one. That's not the first point on the board. But yeah, so I guess Blake is snapped out of his vision, and the gang are all. There's a lot of bickering basically in this section as they try to figure out what to do now that they've got a portal back to the material plane. The exception, of course, being Eva, who just has immediately disappeared. She doesn't even say thank you.
uh, Good for her. I wonder what she experienced and if it really fucked either of them up and how we would if we're gonna learn that because I could see it showing Eva like really awful things. But
We'll have to
I
catch
don't
up with
know.
her to find out.
It's it seems like there's so much kind of left in this story to uncover and understand, but also like so few arcs to do it in. I don't really know how many chapters and stuff there are or anything, but um I'm pretty excited. He's good at the story about packing all the information and action in. So, yeah. Ah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Um
no comment.
But yeah, so now Blake is really angry, especially with Alexis. He feels very betrayed. He can't look at Alexis. He doesn't want to talk to her. Um, and of course, the mirror's broken. Um, whether you know Blake is like, well, maybe she did it on purpose, and is like double guessing and always thinking about like whenever they all look at each other or whenever whatever, and like sure they're communicating something. Um, but also it's just paranoia and upsetness. Um, yeah, so he's not doing okay. He's arguably doing the least okay out of anyone, which is
It's
fair.
saying
Except
something.
maybe Roxanne. He and Roxanne, I think, are pretty bad. Um, he's I mean, Blake feels like he's lost his purpose, I think. But he keeps
Hmm.
saying things like they're still my friends, like they're my friends, whatever, but they're not his allies and they're not whatever. And yeah, he's worried about the future and he needs a reason to like go on. Um and that's bad. Um yeah. Um
Yeah, he very much has this vibe because there's that bit where he starts talking about the future, and Alexis, I think it is like, you don't have to worry about that right now. And his
mm,
paranoia is just like, oh, really? He's a big mess.
yes. Um but yeah, I guess touching it on how everyone's doing, Green Eyes is submerged in the snow like an adorable like dog mole something. I love it. Um the way they describe this, my parents owned a golden retriever when they first got married, and I have like really vague memories of her. She died when I was pretty little, but they lived in Colorado and Utah, and they describe how she loved the snow. And yeah, she would just like jump out into it and like run, and you'd see this like mound tunnel like forming like when she'd like jump out and like, and green eyes, it's totally green eyes, it's so good. She's just like, I'm out, this is sort of water, like everything's great.
Yeah, it's basically water.
Hmm.
It seems to work for her, so
Yeah.
yeah.
God,
I do.
she's the best.
She just has such a fun energy.
Hmm. And she's so, yeah, I mean, Blake has been really kind of suspicious and on edge about her lately, um, as well, I guess. Not really in these chapters, but I just love her so much. And if she betrays Blake, I'm going to be so devastated.
You
Um,
sound like Blake right now.
I'm so she's so great. Um, yeah, Alexis is trying to fix Kathy's arm, and um that's not going great. Peter is like, what are we gonna do? What's happening? Someone literally form a plan. And he starts getting agitated and describing how all the monsters are gonna like kill them slowly. And Kristoff doesn't like this because he just watched his brother be killed by all the monsters. And he shoves Peter, and Peter, sort of like steps backward and then shoves Kristoff, which means he like falls and almost falls through the floor, and it's not great. I yeah, I was really liking Peter, and I think I still like Peter, but these chapters I was like, you're being a dickhead, like stop it. Um and so Blake saves Kristoff, and Peter's really afraid of Blake because he's a scary tree man. And this is what gets Alexis to be like, hey Blake, come help me. And then Blake tries to fix Kathy's arm, and it doesn't work, and the theory is that it's the abyss because Alexis says that Blake did it right. And we're just not doing great, and
Mhm.
we're cold, and we're in the abyss, and there's others trying to kill them, and it's bad.
Yeah, I remember this being one of those bits where, as an Australian, it had not occurred to me that they would open this portal and it would be like minus a bajillion degrees outside, and that like that was something they were going to have to think about. But that's like the horror of them having the portal, but it's too cold for them to actually use it. Is yeah,
Mm-hmm. And same, I've only been in like, well, actually, do Canadians use Celsius?
I think so.
Oh, that's not as bad then. I was thinking it was -10 Fahrenheit, and I was like, oh my god. Like, um, what is that? -10 Celsius. Yeah, so that'd be -23 Celsius is what I
Yeah,
thought
which
they
is a
were
lot.
experiencing.
That's a big difference.
Because um I've been in like -4 Fahrenheit, which I guess is like -20, uh
Mm.
once, and it was intense. And I mean, I had all the layers and snow boots, and I was very prepared. And yeah, okay. So what's -10
Yeah, I did that.
Celsius?
I went camping outside Toronto actually.
Hmm,
In December one time, and it probably
what?
would have been about those temperatures too.
What?
It was with friends. It was like so it wasn't camp. It was like it was yurting. So there was like a
Ooh.
hut a hut thing that we sort of partially put together, and then it had a fire inside, and we did spend a lot of time up against that fire. And then you'd put on like 40 layers of clothing to brave the outside. But like
That
yeah,
sounds kind
like
of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast, but like I'm just picturing the abyss is the yurt in this situation, and then you open the door, and it was that was a lot. Like even because they have the door just open or their portal just
Right.
standing there open. It's like surely there's a cold breeze coming
Yeah. It's like they took the abyss and they made it a little bit worse.
in. The abyss is taking notes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so -10 Celsius is 14 Fahrenheit, and that's fucking cold. Like, it's solidly cold. The It's interesting, like, you know, Green Eyes is outside. She's like, fuck the abyss. Ellie is described as standing right outside. The places that they're choosing to be is interesting.
Mm.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
I also just wanted to call out from this section the bit where Roxanne falls asleep for a little bit,
My God.
and they try to wake her, and she doesn't take it great. Blake doesn't manage to stop them in time, and I think so. She cuts Alexis's palms right open
Mm-hmm.
with a knife. Anyway,
Yeah,
so yeah,
I was gonna say I love that she has a knife. Like, good on you, Roxanne, but also, wow, um, like poor Alexis. I hope. I mean, like, because yeah, her palms might not heal in this environment very well either. But also, it's great that she tries to save her from clawing her own skin off. God, it's really horrible and awful. And and then one of the best exchanges happens where Roxanne says, "I'm never going to be okay again." And Peter's like, "Well, if it's any consolation, you're a Thorburn. You were never going to be okay." And she's like, "Wow, you're right."
yeah. The best part about that is that it works. Like Tiffany's like appalled on the side, and Roxanne's just kind of like, yeah, yeah, good point, good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so then this is where Mr. Grimace comes back and is bound. And another really interesting thing was that um Kristoff is like, "So how do I become a practitioner?"
Oh yeah,
And Tiff, explains it. It's like, "This is what you got to do. You can't lie. You become more other." And Kristoff's like, "Well, being less human sounds good." And I was like, "No, Verona, like, no."
yeah,
Um, and it seems like Kristoff is viewing this as like kind of an escape or something, maybe. And the the others are like, "No." And the thing that really gets to him is Blake's like, "So, did any of the kids who pick on you, or any of them behaves?" And it's like, well, that's one of these families. Like, it doesn't really change. It's not an escape from this situation with our families and crap. And he's still really involved in building the body and in, you know, binding Mr. Grimace and all of that.
Mm.
But I mean, he also says maybe he's not as interested. He just really wants revenge. And so I could see him going in a witch huntery direction, possibly. If you want to destroy others and you don't want to awaken, that seems like the best way to do it. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, he's going through a lot right now. I do really like the moment where he's just like, I think Ty tries to get him to stop and take a break, and he's like, no, 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 I need to be doing something right now.
Mhm.
Like, because so many other Thorburns, particularly Peter, are constantly calling him a chicken shit or whatever, but like,
Mhm.
he's doing better than I would, especially at that age.
Oh yeah. I I really like him. It seemed he's the only person in the Thorburn family who's never, except for Ivy, who's never called out as like being a shithead. Like, even like James or Daniel or whatever his name was, that like I literally can't remember ever having heard of before. His like he freaked out and got hurt with Blake. Like, even Blake was like, "Yeah, this kid is an asshole. He's not Roxanne, but he's an asshole." And Kristoff is just like, Kristoff is a puppy angel doll. Like, Kristoff, like, is wonderful. And he really is showing a lot of, I mean, I think a lot of courage and a lot of determination. And yeah, it's like, I wish Peter wasn't so mean to him because it's making me like Peter less. Which, yeah.
Peter really flip flops between whether you think he's very fun or just needs to go away,
Yeah.
which is part of his charm, but also part of not his charm.
Yeah. Like, even in this chapter with the whole Roxanne thing, that was great. And then later, when Mr. Grimace goes off to do his thing, Green Eyes like snarls at him. And Blake says that she's asserting dominance. And Peter says, "Down, girl." And then she snarls at him, and that was fucking great. Like, that was just so good. And like, thinking about how Green Eyes assessed Peter as like, yeah, like Peter's like attractive or whatever, but also Blake's way better, and just kind of thinking about them interacting after seeing that little snippet of her assessment of him is really fun.
So you're shipping Green Eyes and Peter? Is that what I'm hearing?
Interesting. Like, I don't see her ever really being interested, but I think it could be fun to watch him try. Yeah, but I also love how like Green Eyes and Ty come back from their wood mission.
Their special mission. Yeah.
Right. And Ty's like, here's a bunch of wood. And Green Eyes is like, here's some human bones. It's like, if you wanted that to be less scary, you should have swapped who presented them.
I think, isn't there somebody who's like, are those deer bones? And Green Eyes is like, nope, they're definitely human. I think also before they leave, she does her classic
oh my
if
God.
you die, can I eat you? Gimmick. And Ty does give her the okay.
I'm so obsessed with her. She's so great. It made me happy remembering how she did that with Blake and now she's doing it with Ty because of how she seemed to really like want to eat Evan and being like, oh yeah, she wants to eat literally everyone. Like it's not. But yeah, because she's they're like, oh no, what if Ty dies? And then we have fewer clothes and we're fucked. And Green Eyes is just sort of like, I'll bring it back, but can I eat you first? Sorry. Please, may I eat you?
Yeah. I mean, and
God,
that's the sort of growth we love to see in things like Pale too. She's growing, she's getting politer and nicer. She knows her please and thank yous.
Yeah. God. Let's try assuming I won't die. Okay. She's so good.
But also, I think it's a reasonable request. Like, if you're so inclined to eat people, why let him go to waste? I think it's good to clarify these things and be nice about it.
Right. No, I think she didn't have to ask permission, and it's probably better karma or whatever, but it's very upfront and I like it. Even like when she originally did with Blake, I was like, yeah, cool, legit. And this time I'm like, yeah, you might have other things to eat, but you seem to be very hungry, so sounds good.
Well, and because we've seen Blake get little power boosts from scaring people.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Green Eyes gets that too, and she's just bringing up eating people. Maybe that's a little sneaky power boost for Green Eyes.
A little fear boost, maybe.
But she's nice about it. That's all that really matters.
I wonder if she thinks that if she doesn't realize that it's scary, and she thinks that like the politeness and the like asking for permission is what's giving her a power boost, and that's why she keeps doing it. It's really good.
So she just doesn't realize that scaring people is what's giving her power, and she thinks she's being friendly to everyone. Mm-hmm. She doesn't realize that she's terrifying them all.
Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, like I become a little bit stronger. Like I feel better when I like am straightforward with people and when I ask them for things.
When I give them surprise hugs. Like, yeah.
I love her. I really didn't expect her to be this big of a thing in the story, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, she comes out of nowhere and just instantly wins you over, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm. And I really didn't think she was going to come back. Like, I was like, oh, maybe she's like, the girlfriend who disappeared, and like maybe we'll learn that, maybe we won't. But it's just sort of like I never thought we'd see her again.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember being so surprised when it was her that Blake got Faisal to get, or when Blake asked Faisal to get her from the dress. I was like, oh, I forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess so. Speaking of, now that Green Eyes has got Blake the parts for his new body, she helps ease him into it as he gives a big speech while literally ripping his own heart out of his chest.
Oh my God.
Speaking of Thorburns and being extra.
Yeah, one thing that was funny, when they were like putting the body together and he's like trying to pretend everything's fine, was he's like, oh well, do you need me to like pose? Like, because they seem to not be sure if it's a good idea, but they do it, and yeah, they wrap these bones in sticks, and Blake's like, okay, I guess it looks like a body, and now I'll finish it. And this was incredibly extra, but also reminded me of the Kenneteers sometimes, or like also Alistair in this story. When you're trying to like do something big and impactful, you want the spirits to like help you, and part of that is just like being extra and stating things. So yeah, it did feel a little cheesy, but also in this story, I was like, cool, I get why you're doing this. It's one of those fun things that makes kind of cliched moments like this actually really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I think you're right. He's totally getting a power boost because all the spirits are going like, "Wow, this is cool," because it is.
It is cool. Yeah, he's tearing his stick body apart and putting it into the new stick body. He takes all of the bird spirits he can out of his body and puts them into the new body, and then he rips out his fucking heart. I'm just like, what? Like, that's still there, but I guess it hasn't been stabbed yet, so I guess it would still be there. And yeah, when none of his friends step forward to help, but Green Eyes does, and she's so good. She's just like, you're my friend and I love you, and also like I'm gonna help you get out of here. Like, you're good, and like this might be creepy and horrifying, but also it's great.
And it's a selfless act because this isn't even a body she can eat. I don't think.
Wow.
But like,
There's
I don't think she eats sticks. But maybe, yeah, I can't rule it out. To be fair,
right. We haven't seen her refuse sticks. And he does talk about a bit of flesh growing back. His face, flesh or whatever grows in, and maybe other places. Which is interesting. I think he describes his body as probably more fragile, but at least it does seem like some of the regenerative properties have transferred because he does grow some flesh in, I guess. God, he's insane. And the one body turns to dust, and wow. He's like, I'm gonna keep promises, and I'm gonna maybe help my friends, but also mostly Evan, and let's go kill bad things. And then he walks off with Green Eyes and Evan, explicitly with his two other friends and not with any of the humans, without looking back at them, striding off into the darkness.
Yeah, that final line of "without looking back at the humans" certainly sells where Blake is at right now.
Mm-hmm. He no longer identifies as human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What's next? What's Blake's plan from here? I'm curious. I'm curious where you think he's going.
I mean, it sounds like he still wants to set a fire in the house. But the story never quite goes where I think it's gonna go. I don't necessarily see him just straight up abandoning them, even though he is really pissed. I think he still wants to help out his family. So the plan was light part of the house on fire as a distraction, and then I think hang out in the library. That was like the original plan. What? I don't know. It's like, I feel like he's gonna go and light part of the house on fire, like the kitchen or something. But I also want Rose to come back, so I don't know if he's gonna go like fucking look for Rose. Now he can't just like warp over to her, presumably. Yeah, he's gonna walk over and light the kitchen on fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, step one with your new stick body is to go start fires.
Start fires. It's great. Maybe he'll ask Green to do it. I forgot to mention when the desk, way back at the beginning of the first chapter for this week, when the desk falls through, and it describes like, the void or whatever, and just the falling, I really thought for like half a second that there was like, we were finally gonna get that there was a demon under the house, and I freaked out. It's the second time that's happened to me, and I'm so annoyed. And it's both when like holes to the abyss are forming, because with Mags, and then with this, and like there's probably not a demon under the house, but like, what if there's a demon?
Well, that's the thing. The abyss hole would be like above it, so that it's actually obscuring the demon even more.
Oh, that's true. They did make a specific portal, so he's still down there. Or it's an angel
Waiting
now. I
to
don't
come
even
out.
remember.
Yeah. Anything else from these two chapters?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think I'm ready to talk about Pale a little specifically.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The pale in comparison section, as the name of the podcast is. What did you want to? What did you have to bring for that? It reminds you of pale from these two.
Um, the thing I wanted to talk about most is I've been thinking a lot about pact readers versus pale readers, as we talked about a little earlier.
Mm.
And going back and thinking of the very first chapters of Pale and Verona, and how Verona is like, I want to be an other. And we see that with Kristoff a little bit in this section. But why I was thinking about it is like, so many others used to be human. Like,
Mm.
Blake, Evan, and Green Eyes were all humans, and none of them are in a better place than when they were human. And I think they would all happily, gladly go back. And thinking of like the horror that it must have been for someone who had read Pact coming to Pale and hearing like a 13-year-old girl be like, I want to be an other, and like this is how like this is your knowledge of what a human turning into an other is like, um is so horrifying. Like there's like spirits, and like I don't know what fae and goblin are exactly. There's the lost, but it seems like a lot of others used to be human. Alpy, Matthew, Edith to some
Yeah.
extent. Um yeah,
I
like we
think
don't know
yeah.
about the goblins and
Miss
fairy,
is
but
bits and pieces. I think of
mhm,
person. Like I get the impression that some of whatever she conglomerated from was presumably used to be human.
mhm. Um, we don't know anything about Rook, I guess, but like Tashlet, um, I guess John was never like exactly a human, though he's taken things from humans. Um,
Yeah, well, again, he was another bit of like he was a bit of a human soup in a lot of ways, right? Like a
mhm,
bunch of bits of people and ideas got blobbed together.
mhm. And I mean, it reminds me of the thing Avery said to the Page of Suns about others being like revolving around humanity, kind of. It does feel that way when you really think about where do others come from. At least most of the ones we know about. Um, but yeah, just the idea of gotta read this book. Oh my god, you want to be an other? That's the worst fucking thing.
I do have a feeling in our first Backed to Pact segment that we did in Pale, it was one of the ones. It was after Verona said she wanted to be an other, and I'm pretty sure we sort of opened it with like, "Oh fuck, here we go again." But wait, yeah, we just saw the horrors Blake went through, slowly realizing he wasn't human.
And this chick like actively wants that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
but it's interesting though because you can look at other people like Nina and like the
Mm,
librarian animus and like John when he was it's like being an other doesn't have to suck. It's just
hmm.
m- made so that it usually does as well is almost the other side of that in my opinion. Like there yeah like I think there's a way to construct a world where wanting to be an other makes a lot of sense, and
Mhm.
Kira Lynn thinks she's closer to that world than maybe she is, but yeah, I think there's ways for it to make sense. It's just the other verse largely isn't it.
Right. Um, there's a part of it too, though, is like becoming a practitioner is making yourself a little bit more other, and
Mm,
thinking about all the people in these stories who like want to do that. Because magic is fucking cool, and I'm glad I'm not a practitioner because I don't feel smart enough to get this shit right. And to
yeah.
intuit this stuff the way a lot of Wild Bow's characters do. But like just existing on this planet, really, really horrible bad shit can happen to you. But like it probably won't. And it feels like we see a lot of really, really bad shit happen to practitioners, but also it's still probably unlikely for those really horrible things to happen. And so while you see horrors and you see, yeah, just various really, really, really bad consequences, like I also haven't been like kidnapped by cult members and whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, like people still have children in this world, even when like the worst things could happen to them. And so
Yeah.
I could see a lot of people wanting to be practitioners, which is becoming a little more other. And I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, well, it's like in Pate, right? Like we met that
Mm,
the lady Cheryl who just worked for like a group that wrote sort of little tourist guides for neat little places. Like there are the
hmm
non-main character practitioners who just seem to lead pretty okay lives.
hmm
So
I
yeah,
hope we
like
get more of those. That was so fun.
that wasn't just yeah, what a fun little I love Grim.
Mm,
Yeah, like yeah, actually, well, yeah, Grimsey and that whole section was just like that was another. It was like a peaceful little place where a bunch of others and practitioners lived, and I was like, yeah, I do think Pact, it like has a lot of some of the worst others in it, like demons. Obviously, there's less
hmm
demons in Pale, and that colors your view of what otherdom can be.
It also, yeah, I think I'm finally understanding how horrifying demons are, but like ref- reflecting my knowledge of Pale, because like the way that people lost their shit when like a tiny, tiny piece of a demon was like in something, um,
Yeah,
and really reflecting on that and being like, okay, yeah, like what would the main characters of this story do if they confronted a demon? Like, what would even, you know, happen? And you're just immediately like in this story, I've been like, here's some demons, like, and so I feel like the scale was kind of off in my
yeah,
mind. And thinking about, um, we see a Bahame in the latest section of um the of Pale, which was a
yeah,
fun little call out. And just thinking like, oh, if she's like, connected to this town, this, presumably crazy shit's going to happen in this story and some of it's going to involve demons. And even if it doesn't, just being like, oh yeah, I live in a town and a diabolist lives in that town. Like that's fucking wild.
mm,
Um but in Impact it's like, yeah, this is really bad, but it doesn't seem like completely why the fuck is even this happening. Um yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, part of that's the protagonist by like Blake did just get dropped into this world. And like, it's like
Mhm.
when Avery was telling Sheridan about the world of magic, and she opened that door, and she's like, "This is the Cascus Wilds with all the primevals." And then Sheridan kept bringing up the primevals, and Avery kept being
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I don't know why you keep bringing those up. They don't have like they're not very common. Like they don't come up much."
They're
And
not
it's like
really a
that's all
thing.
you've shown her. Like of course she's going to bring up the giant prehistoric creatures when that's all she knows. And it's probably similar for Blake. It's like you get handed a book with all the demons you can use. It's like there's demons just going to be more common for you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's another type of other that didn't start as human, almost certainly. But those are so fun. Big dinosaurs.
They get measured in elephant scales.
It's 27 and a half elephants.
um, another quick comparison to Pale that I wanted to pull was
Mhm.
we saw in Arc 20 how terrible a time Adrian had when he dropped into the
Mm.
ruins for a bit because he was astrally projecting. And then I think it was just after that that Verona suggested she could astrally project into the ruins or drop her material
Wow.
form into the abyss. And that was when Alpi was like, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Um, which felt like a direct call out to sort of what Blake just did in this chapter, like just
Hmm.
dropping your material form. Like, I wonder if normal practitioners kind of come in here as ghosts and astrally project into the abyss.
Right, as like a buffer.
Yeah.
Right, because yeah, the idea of sending like your spiritual form into the spiritual hell place is dumb to ask a child to do. And let's go on a field trip. God, Blake. Every single thing Blake decides to do seems to make some sense in the moment, and you understand why he feels pressured to do certain things. Sometimes he just runs off and decides to kill a demon, and you're like, you could have done that like later. Um, but like
And not at
so
night
many
time.
little decisions. Right? Um, but when you step back and you're like, if you've led your family into the abyss, like something has gone wrong.
Yeah, but that's something I think was before they were stuck in the library. Like this is the thing with the crazy Blake blends. It's like, well, they were already stuck in the library with a djinn outside trying to knock
Oh
the
my
door
god.
down.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. They were very much in
Right.
the fire. Like it was a good idea to jump to the frying pan.
And now they've jumped to the frozen lake or something.
Cool. Well, yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up from Pale?
No, I think I could. Yeah.
Cool. Well, in that case, it's time for my favorite section. Your bold and specific prediction. Hit us with it.
Okay. Yeah, a couple days ago I was going to be like, no, it's still Grandma Rose, and I don't think so. So it's not Grandma Rose. Should I say something about Mr. Grimace or Corvidae? Remembering that Corvidae is out there is horrifying.
He's helping.
Uh-huh.
He's a little helper.
God. And knowing that like Blake and Rose are supposed to kill each other, and then you draw the like angry connection man into the, that's such a it was so bad. Corvidae. Right, where are we going? We're outside the house. It's like this felt kind of like a mic drop arc over chapter, and it's like not. And so I'm like, okay, we have 2 chapters left in this normal part of the arc. Too bad the Behames are a police family and not a firefighter family, because that'd be funny to somehow be like the firefighters.
It's a small town. Maybe there's overlap. Like,
That's fair.
Like they might share infrastructure in a small town.
Okay, here's one. They'll manage to start the fire and it'll be bad, and the djinn will just like snap its fingers and like put the fire out. And it'll just be dealt with. How are they gonna get out of the portal? They can't go back, right? Like they can't go back into the abyss.
I mean, they can. They technically can. Should they?
No. I think that Blake is going to get back into the library and learn some critical piece of information there by the end of the story.
Oh, I like that one. Something from his grandma?
Yeah. Like, I'm almost thinking, like, we'll finally figure out what the fuck is going on with Rose. And, because she still has said, I mean, like, she can lie or whatever, so she sucks, but she was like, yeah, like, I was the heir in my timeline, or, like, whatever. And I don't get it. Yeah.
That's right. We totally skipped over the fact that she also drops that she has the heart and soul, and Blake didn't get those.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then Blake cuts his heart out.
Yeah.
I guess how literal. Fuck, wait. What does it mean?
And so on that note, there was a discussion question. we'll leave Malia to stew on that one. But yeah, so you and Jenny asked people for their favorite chill or comfort.
Yeah, this was nice. Thanks everyone for suggesting. I definitely should like make some sort of. I don't know how YouTube works. Can you make like personal like playlists? I guess, or like
I think
favorites.
So.
Yeah, I should make something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has that feature. I've never used it, but I think it's there.
Yeah. In particular, one that I really wanted to check out, Fleet Feathers recommends 2 different ones. One that sounds very up my alley, and one that sounds very not. One is Baumgartner Restoration. It's this dude, he restores old paintings. It's beautiful to watch. He has a nice voice. He's good at it. Sounds great. But then there's Journey to the Microcosmos, which sounds real scary. I have tryptophobia, kind of, and I think that's like the thing in 9th grade biology that cemented the fact that I was never going to go to med school. Was looking at a diagram of the lipid phosphate hydro whatever the cell layer, The cell.
Yeah, like with
Wall.
all where you can see like all the individual cells squished together to make a wall.
Uh-huh, the little lipids and the little tails. So, but if you're people like Fleet Feathers and Elliot, I hope you like those
I love it.
videos.
Yeah. The Baumgartner one was also there was like a recurring theme I noticed in a lot of these, which is just a lot of these videos are just somebody going through a process that takes like a decent amount of time, but is very like you like systemic, like or systematic.
Mhm,
Like you go
mhm.
through and you do like so restoring these paintings. You like sort of rub them with the stuff, and you go over the whole painting, and then you go over it with the next chemical. And similarly, like Walbo posted some like blacksmithing videos and a guy who sets
Mm.
up aquariums. Um, a lot of these videos are just like a person sort of doing a thing, and you just get to watch like it's like watching somebody color in almost, just like more advanced.
Yeah, you can really see a, like, steady progression kind of and things come together.
Mm. I think it's yeah,
Um,
that steady progression is the important part for sure. It's like it's like there's just this catharsis from watching some progress sort of consistently get made,
mhm.
but without the need to do the thing. Like I posted one myself, which was like a person who like cleans up lawns like that are really bad and like trims all the edges and power washes the things. And like it's so fun to watch. But like I used to do that when I rented a place by myself, and I hated it. It was awful. So like I don't like doing it, but watching it was great.
Mhm. Um, Arctic Art recommends a video that's a time lapse of a cargo ship. There's like chill
Mm.
music, and this is an interesting, yeah, also a progression, but not like watching a human physically fix something. It's just you're watching the ship, you're watching stuff happen on it. Um, Kind of cool.
This is the one for me. I found this one a little terrifying. Like There's something there's something about boats in the middle of nowhere where when you feel like alone on them that is just kind of existentially terrifying to me. And it's actually
Hmm.
part of why I like doing that. Well, I've loved going on like little sailing trips or whatever when you get that sense of like you can't see land and it's just like you and the boat and that's the whole world right now. But like also it's terrifying.
Yeah. That reminds me of a video game I need to play. Uh The Return of the Obra Dinn. I think it's like a
Yeah.
mystery on a boat. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Subnautica, which is the I refuse to play that
Oh.
game because it scares me too much. I have
Yeah.
is it thalassophobia, the thing where I don't like swimming in the ocean because I'm convinced something giant is going to come up and swallow me.
Yeah, that's fair.
So no, because I used to like I used to like the first thing I did when I went to the beach as a kid was go swim out past the waves and just like float out past the waves, and now I
Hmm.
can't do it.
That sucks. Did anything happen or you just sort of thought
No,
about it too
I
much or
don't.
something?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but just one day I decided that sharks were going to get me.
That's like me and planes. I used to really like planes and now I'm always like, yeah, this will probably crash. And like,
Because like half your brain knows that that's not true. Like there's the logical
mhm.
part of your brain that's like this is fine, but then there's that tiny part of my brain is a lot louder, and that's the one that's like, yeah, there's probably like 10 sharks down there, and they're waiting.
Oh no.
They can't wait.
So sharks are scary.
Yeah. I used to have that in the pool as a kid too sometimes. I'd be swimming like in an indoor swimming pool
Oh
and sometimes
no.
sneaking up behind me. Like brains are dumb.
Mhm.
I'm you know what? Yeah, I want to be an other. I want to get rid of that part of the brain. But I wake up the dumb shit.
The irrational fear part, yeah.
Um, we also got a answer from Kipos who posted a Jenny Nicholson video, which this was the other sort of. There were a bunch of people who talked about like video essay people,
Mhm.
and Nicholson is one of those YouTubers who does like over an hour long uh, video essays on stuff. And Kipos posted her one on the worst reality show of all time, which I have seen before, and oh my god, that show was a disaster.
Yeah, it seems like we accidentally, I mean, maybe you did it on purpose, but it seems kind of accident that we grouped these together because Vorpal plugs random game reviews, which is also a guy like talking about games and reviewing them. And then I'm actually not sure. Do you know Megafire recommended Dan Olson and H Bomber Guy? Are you familiar?
I've heard of them, but I think I watched one. I think Dan Olson might be the guy who did the big video on NFTs.
Huh.
But don't quote me on that. Well, but like the video about how NFTs suck, and why they're
Mm-hmm.
not good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard of both. I think Dan Olson and H Bomber Guy sit kind of near Jenny Nicholson in the spectrum of people who do very long video essays, but theirs are a bit more serious.
Mm. I also really like I can't remember his name, but there's this guy who does really long essays on like random linguistic stuff or like how Hangman works as a game, like why do we have the letter Y
Oh,
or something like
interesting.
that. He does one on like Quenya, the like Lord of the Rings language. Um those are fun. I should figure out who that is. Ben would know. Um
There's a show on Netflix called Explained, which is like mini 30-minute documentaries on various topics, and there's one on the
hmm.
history of the exclamation mark, and that was fascinating. I did not
Oh, that's
realize you could
fun.
make half an hour of fun content about the history of the exclamation mark, but apparently you can.
Huh. Okay, well, I think it's time to talk about a new discussion question. Which I think we've settled on. Tell us about the worst field trip you've ever had, or vacation, or something like that.
Yeah, just like how the characters this week went on a fun little trip to the abyss. We want to hear about your equivalent
Tell
because
us
we've
about
all got a
your
story
own
this bad.
abyss. Yeah. Another one I
Do you
was
have one?
thinking. Oh,
So do
oh.
you have a story of your what's your worst field trip? Let's give people inspiration.
Yeah. Well, so this is also the story of my worst birthday. Um, which
Oh, that's a lot of extra points. Yeah.
So it's a vacation. This was like a really bad vacation day. So I turned 20 and I was in Italy with my family, and we were driving from Venice to Florence that day, I think. Um but like I wake up and I remember it's my birthday, but like no one wishes me happy birthday. And so that's a bad start. And then we we rent a car, and mom is the only one with an international driver's license at that point. Um, Dad like just hadn't gone to do the paperwork or something. Um, and so she's the only one who can drive the car, and it's a stick shift, and mom can drive stick shift, but out of all four of us, she was the worst at it. Um, and it's this huge car, and dad would always go through methodically and like know how to turn all the lights on and off and the radio and just like very meticulously check everything before we would start driving. And that would drive mom nuts. So when she has a rental car, she's like, it's on. Okay. And we start going, and I'm navigating. Because I really like, looking at maps and doing whatever. And we're going along, and it's stressful. Again, we're in a really big car. Luckily, they drive on the same side of the road as we do in the US. Unlike England when my dad was driving, which was also fun. In a different way. And we get to this toll booth, and we don't speak Italian, so we're not quite sure what we're doing, but we get into this line, and turns out it's only for the toll pass, and this car doesn't have a toll pass, and
Oh
mom can't
God.
figure out how to put the car into reverse, because normally with the stick shift, right, there's like the 5 gears and then the reverse thingy. But this car
Yeah.
actually has 6 gears. and
Okay.
and a magical reverse somehow, and we don't know how to do it. We can't figure it out. So there's a guy yelling at us in Italian over a speaker, and mom panicking trying to figure out how to reverse, and I'm panicking, and I just like have anxiety, and I'm just like not having a good time. And and then this huge like semi truck is like slowly pulling up behind us, and then we're trapped. And eventually they like opened the gate because we couldn't figure it out, and
Yeah.
we were just
It's just
free.
easier to let you go for free.
Right. And then we pulled over, we tried to figure out how to whatever, and just everyone was mad, everyone was fighting. It was awful. I like freaked out and couldn't navigate anymore and was like sitting in the back. And when we finally got to Florence after mom, like, there's people on mopeds, there's people in the traffic circles. It's just awful. She yeah, we finally get to Florence, and I don't remember, at some point I was kind of like, it's my birthday, and they were all like, oh my god. So in what was actually a really great vacation, it was just like one really bad day. Yeah. Do you have a horrible vacation story or field trip?
Oh, damn it. I thought by being the one who asked you, I would get out of it. I've got one that's sort of inspired by... Oh, no, that's probably not work. Okay, I've got one that's relevant to Roxanne's experience this trip.
Oh,
these chapters. So my school had a cadet unit, which is basically a thing you can do with the Australian military, where they send a bunch of like gear and stuff to the school, and then you do these programs where it's like basic mini military related stuff. And so one of the things you have to do for it in 9th grade is solo, which is where they send you out for 2 nights completely on your own.
What?
And
What?
And so I was doing my solo.
Oh my god.
And they dropped me off on the side of this steep hill, and part of the thing is you have to stay within a certain range of where they drop you off.
Mhm.
And I couldn't find anywhere to set up my... essentially, like, you don't get a tent, you get like a thing that it's called a hoochie, and it's a tent without walls, so it's just like the roof.
Oh wow.
I couldn't find anywhere good to so I ended up like just going about halfway up this hill and just attaching it to 2 trees on the hill.
Hmm.
And I then woke up in the middle of the night, and in my sleeping bag I had slid about 30 meters down the hill. So I could see my hoochie in the distance when I pulled my torch out, and I had about, I want to say, 30 ticks on my head, like just all in my hair, like because I'd set up all the tick protection stuff around the hoochie, but I'd slipped past it all. So I basically had to climb back up, get into my hoochie so I could hang my torch from it, get my mirrors out, and I spent about the next 4 hours pulling ticks out of myself. And
Oh my god.
yeah, and then I slept most of the day after sitting there at night, like shaking. So that was fun. That was a good one.
That's so awful.
I was just lucky. I thought I was lucky I got all the ticks out, because I don't know if this is just an Australian thing or not, but like if you don't like twist them the right way when you pull them out here, then they leave their head in, so you pull their body off, but the head stays in.
My god.
And then they keep injecting you with like the poisons and shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Good times.
So like in America, my first thought is like the liability they would never, but also like the bugs. That's so scary.
Yeah, well, so after that, I got put on the radio team, which is so like because we're out there by ourselves, but we do have a radio, so we could call for emergency help. And so then I went on to the radio team, which are basically the kids who go out and set up a tower for a week, and our job is to like relay all the messages and like where the people you call for the emergency, and then we actually would call the people. And like when I was in there, we had one kid had to get chopped out because he got bitten by a spider, and it was one of the toxic ones. It was a redback. So we had to organize the helicopter to come pick him up. It was pretty intense.
Wow.
Wow.
But
yeah, fun program. Lots of fun.
I guess if you live somewhere as scary as Australia, it's nice to know how to survive outside, but also
the scariest thing sometimes was the people, though. I think I was more like, we had one guy who was on one of my radio teams once, and he was in the year below me at school, and he slept in his full, because we wear like used versions of the army uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy would sleep in like the full uniform with his boots and everything on, and the collared shirt, belt, and he didn't sleep, not in a sleeping bag. And he just lay down on his back, kind of went perfectly still, and then he started talking in like tongues.
No.
Like while he was like, it was like sleep talking, but not in English and not in a language I recognized.
No.
And that was scarier than the wildlife. Just a guy sort of sitting there at night going like, like terrifying.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Well, we hope we inspired you all to think of horrible experiences in your lives.
So that's the sort of content we're after. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, or leave a rating and a review. You can also support the podcast at patreon.com/doofmedia, and you can support Wildbow as he continues to write fantastic stories at patreon.com/Wildbow.
So I've been meaning to ask, I feel like, do Australians always say /? Do you use the / ever?
Good point. I mean, I have to use Windows for works, but sometimes, but begrudgingly. You're right. I don't ever say /. There's no need for me to say /.
So I feel like I would say /. I wouldn't say /.
Yeah, I didn't even realize I was doing it. Now I'm gonna be insecure about that for the next little bit. So that'll be fun. I'm gonna be so aware of that tomorrow.
No, it's specific and descriptive and useful.
But I think this is like one of those things, where it's like, where you notice how your tongue doesn't fit in your mouth. Like, it's going to be like one of those sorts of things.
I'm sorry. Well, you can follow the pod on Twitter at Pale Comparison, or send us an email at paleincomparisonpod@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our discussion question and share your thoughts on this episode. In addition, if you would like to see all of my predictions laid out, check out our episode description for a link to a prediction tracker. Next episode, we will be covering chapters 12.7 and 12.8.
Exciting. Don't forget about the costume contest, everyone. I think, this would be the last episode that you're listening to for this week. You still have time to get entries in.
Yeah, entries are due Friday, so send them on over.
Cool. And then as we go, I brought a fun fact, as is Jenny's tradition, which is pigeons can tell the difference between a painting by Monet and Picasso.
But which do they prefer?
So I read more. This was a study done in 1995. I had the same question. I think they prefer Picasso because the scientists basically trained them to detect, Monet versus Picasso. Then when they flipped the images upside down, the pigeons could still identify Picasso paintings, but they couldn't identify Monet paintings. So I think what that means is that they like Picasso better.
That's fair.
I do really like how this is phrased in the scientific paper that this is from. Which says, this result may indicate that the pigeon's behavior was controlled by objects depicted in Impressionist paintings, but was not controlled by objects in Cubist paintings. Who is funding this? What is this research for? It's cool, but
my fiance would really be happy about it, because birds. Something knowing what pigeons can figure out is useful for letters or something.
Yeah. I guess, these results suggest that pigeons' behavior can be controlled by complex visual stimuli in ways that suggest categorization.
Yeah, so, didn't they use pigeons to, direct missiles?
What? Surely the missiles are faster than the pigeons.
No, I think it's actually kind of sad. Or they tried. So they'd put a pigeon in the bomb, and they would tap on the screen or something to guide it to the target.
Interesting.
And so they would peck at it, and then I think they would die when the bomb hit, which makes me really sad, because what cool pigeons. But in 1953 they realized they could do it with technology, so that
another win
for
technology.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you again for joining me on this episode. This was really fun.
Yeah, no worries. It was a blast, and I can't wait for you to see what happens next.
I'm so upset. It's gonna be great. Okay, well, I'll talk to you later, and thank you all for listening.